Land's junkyard gym. There was just nothing over there.
That's a great
And
sports town.
and now it's just a thriving metropolis.
Baltimore's a great sport. How did they lose the Bullets, by the way, to Washington? I never figured that one out. Was it just the arena? Was it because I thought they were very successful.
They built that arena in Landover,
Right.
Maryland,
Not
technically in Maryland.
Okay, not that far, right?
And so they 40 minutes.
Okay.
And so they moved and started playing there, and then they just for a while they were the Capitol Bullets.
That's
for a
right.
while.
I remember that. The Capitol Bullets.
Then the Washington Bullets, and then because the crime rate was so bad,
they decided
they changed the Bullets to Wizards.
Wizards. But in Baltimore has had a history of a little bit of violence too.
Yeah, but Washington D.C. that was number one.
Yeah.
187 murder.
Yeah. If you want to talk about violence, now we're going way back. When Abraham Lincoln's inaugural train, came through from Illinois, and he was going to be inaugurated as president, they had to sneak in through Baltimore because Baltimore was a hotbed of secessionists, and there were a lot of pro-slavery people that hated Lincoln and the Republican Party. So they snuck him in, and the story is that they disguised him, to make sure he wouldn't get hurt. Interesting story.
Probably get on his knees because he was a tall guy.
He was 6'4". Yeah.
For back then, that was
kind of off subject. While we're talking about presidents, I want to go out and get this book. It's called "The President Is Dead," and it's written by a guy who has chronicled the presidency throughout the years from the very beginnings. It was talking about things like, for example, because there was no telegraph, there was no like mail system, and presidents would die in office, and
William Henry Harrison lived for 1 month in 1841.
You know why he died? He gave the longest inaugural speech.
No gloves, no hat,
and he was raining. And he caught pneumonia.
but because there was no communication, people in other parts they didn't know.
Yeah.
And there's a story where I guess John Adams passed, and John Quincy Adams didn't even know.
Yeah.
He was in Massachusetts, and John Adams, he just didn't know for a month.
It's interesting too.
His dad died for a month. Wow.
But think about it. Think about it. If you had
It's interesting.
Zachary Taylor died in the middle of the Civil War.
Yeah.
Nobody know.
10 of the first 12 presidents had slaves. That's an interesting story. 10 of the first 12 had slaves.
Well, that goes back to my old thing. Find a white guy with the last name of Washington or Jefferson. Go ahead. Go ahead.
George.
Man.
That's true. They used to take on many. Okay, so speaking of slaves, everyone knows Frederick Douglass, right?
Right.
Sure.
That wasn't his name. I mean, he took on the name.
He took on the name. When he was being educated.
That's right. What was his slave name?
No idea.
Frederick Bailey.
Okay.
Bailey.
So the Bailey family probably owned the plantation where he was.
Yeah. And then when he escaped, he decided, I'm not taking this name anymore. I guess it would be a little bit too easy to go, hey, wait a minute, that's a slave, that's a slave owner's name.
Right.
All right. Going on to, we were talking also
American history.
American history. That's right. Sports, econ, and history.
U.S. History 101.
That's it. And you know what? I'm so old that when I was in high school, history was only 15 minutes long. There wasn't much history before I was born. Okay. The A's chose.
Is this thing on?
In fact, I just started the YouTube. And starting the segment, I forgot that. I got to push the button here. So we're live.
That would help.
It would help. Yeah. The A's chose Heisman winner, didn't they?
Kyler Murray.
Yeah. What is he?
Kyler Murray.
5'10", 5'9"?
Listed as 5'10", 11. He's really 5.
Great baseball player, though, I understand.
Terrific outfielder. Top pick of the Oakland A's outfielder. Strong arm, cannon of an arm. We all saw that when he was part of 51 touchdowns for the Oklahoma Sooners. And so it's the great debate: should he play in the NFL? I mean, if afforded the opportunity. I mean, who knows where he would be projected to play in the NFL. Certainly not a starting quarterback. And I talked to a sports agent the other day about that, because Deion Sanders, he was a defensive back and a kick returner. Bo Jackson was a running back who played with the Royals as well as the Raiders. Sure. But in case of Kyler Murray, it's just what if when I asked him, he said, "Well, it's possible, but not probable. And if he were my client, I would tell him to play baseball.
Yeah.
Longer
career.
Long career, and you don't have to get hit in the head every play.
Yeah. And you make good money in baseball too.
Right? Yeah.
Baseball pays better than football.
Shelf life's a lot longer playing baseball.
Unless you play like Ken Griffey Jr. and keep running into walls. Poor guy. I mean, he got hurt too.
Well, by the time he got to Cincinnati, he'd run into so many walls, he didn't have much left.
But if you think about it, I mean, if you want to be a quarterback in the NFL, I mean, you can't play baseball. I mean, you're just
a 5'9" quarterback. That guy's going to take a.
Well, it's not just that, Bruce. I mean, on Wednesday, you put in the game plan.
Yeah.
Well, where's my quarterback? Oh, he's got a game against the Royals.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah, you just
can't
have
that.
Well, didn't he sign a $4.5 million bonus with the A's, something like that?
Yeah, and I wonder. I wish we had somebody on the line to kind of straighten that out. I wonder if he was given that money and had to maybe put it on hold so he could play at Oklahoma, because if he took that money, he's a professional.
Yeah.
So I just wonder.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I wonder how that
works.
Yeah.
Because there's also a time like when you're allowed to talk, just from a collegiate standpoint, right? You're not supposed to talk to agents at a certain time,
right?
All that.
Yeah, I don't know. Good question.
It's funny. This reminds me for some reason. I was looking online a couple of weeks ago. Were they talking about Rick Ankiel getting into the Hall of Fame potentially? He was on the list.
Oh, on the list because because it was the years had passed, so he's technically eligible.
I remember he came out as a pitcher, but he just wasn't accurate. He threw 100 miles an hour.
Oh, he's a terrific pitcher, and then all of a sudden he just lost it.
Yeah.
Then it got up here, and that was it. So he came back as a power hitting outfielder.
Yeah.
He was pretty good.
Oh, pretty good.
Goodness.
Remember, he had a home run in the playoffs against the Giants in the San Francisco Bay.
That's right. But it was his fielding. I mean, the guy's arm. I just love watching the guy who's got
perfect
that
DH.
kind of arm.
Well, speaking of DHs, what do you think about this? Harold Baines. I love the guy. Great player, durable, solid. I think his lifetime average was 288. He had something like 326 home runs.
21 seasons as a designated
but
hitter.
He's in the Hall of Fame
with 5 teams.
I think it's
I think that's a stretch.
It's fine because
I think that's a number thing because he had almost 2,900 hits.
There you go. And then 22 years.
I mean, he was great.
And the longevity. So, but the question is, if you let him in, I mean, there's a lot of Harold Baines that are out there. So if you let him in,
but you know what it is.
There's a lot of guys you got to let in.
Was this his last shot at it? A lot of times there's that.
I don't know.
Okay, second trivia question is: we're talking basketball here. Who scored the first 3-point basket in NBA history?
Oh, that's a good one.
And I'll give you a hint, but it's not going to help you. 1979.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Stay with us.
That was the first
Econ 101. Okay. We're going to be right back.
Good question. So you going to go to the Warriors this week at all? Or just practice?
I'm off today, off tomorrow.
Wednesday got Toronto coming in.
Wednesday, I got to put together the speech on this open water swimmer. He swam around Barbados. Took him 41 hours.
Oh, you told me about that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We're thinking about doing a cruise to Barbados.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It was a good choice. I was telling Edward when I was out body surfing at Molinas for almost 3 hours on Saturday. It was so beautiful, but the water was so cold. I had my gloves and my booties. My extremities, I could not take my fins off when I got out of the water. I couldn't maneuver my fingers. They were so cold. I had to sit there, bang on them. It took me about 5 minutes before I was able to get them off.
These open water swimmers, no wetsuit.
Crazy.
No wetsuit, and they grease themselves up.
Yeah.
To keep the body from chafing.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Does it keep that much of the cool water? Does it keep them warm though at all?
Well, they're moving pretty well.
They're moving pretty well, and usually, and
in
the case of that swim, water's pretty warm.
Yeah.
It's like bath water. It's a swimming in bath water.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny.
As opposed to say like the English Channel where the water's cold.
The problem with surfing is that you do a lot of floating and sitting.
Yeah,
you're not moving around all the time.
Yeah.
And every half hour you have to feed.
Yeah.
That's another thing. I could have used a little snack when I was out there.
You should do it. Kind of keep it a little with the wetsuit.
Yeah, I should do that. That's a good idea.
So if we go to Barbados, I'm going to think about how big this island is, and see how many miles is that?
40 something.
I don't know how many miles it is, but it took him 41 hours.
41 hours. Jesus.
Yeah.
God, that's crazy.
I know.
I don't know how people do
And
that.
he started at night.
And finished.
And finished at night.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. crazy. It's like these double Ironmans, you know, and Hawaii in the hot weather.
It's a South African guy. He lives in Pacific Heights.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn. Second trivia question about basketball. Who scored the first three-point basket in NBA history?
Well, it was back in '79.
'79, so that was Larry Bird and Magic Johnson's first year.
I was going to say, that was this marked the debut of rookie Larry Bird, but it wasn't him.
Did I say Tiny Archibald?
No?
No.
A guy named Chris Ford.
Oh, yeah, the former North Carolina Tar Heel.
I don't remember him.
Oh, he was a great point guard for the Heels. He ran Dean Smith's four-corner offense. Chris Ford. Oh, yeah.
I don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think that's Phil Ford. That's Phil Ford.
Okay.
Chris Ford, unfamiliar with, but Phil Ford, I know. Yeah.
I bet Jim Barnett would have known that.
I bet he would.
Jim Barnett, for those that don't know,
he knows everything.
He knows everything. Jim Barnett, for those that don't know, is the Warriors' longtime TV color analyst, and he only played about 12 years, but he played with 6 different teams. And get this, the guy in Philadelphia, he played with Julius Erving. In New York, he played with Earl Monroe and Clyde Frazier.
And in Boston, he played with
Bill Russell.
Bill Russell
was his coach. In San Diego with the Clippers, he played with Elvin Hayes. With the Warriors, he played with Rick Barry. I mean, who didn't he play with? And should I mention Pistol Pete Maravich in New Orleans?
You know, it's funny. You know, the Celtics in the '60s, they were just mowing through. They were winning all those NBA titles.
Yeah.
Then the Celtics draft him his rookie year. They don't win it.
That's right.
Then he's traded away, and then they win again.
Yeah. Now, what was the name of it? I'm having a senior moment. What was the name of the movie with Tom Hanks where he plays this guy who just intersects with history all the time?
Forrest Gump?
Forrest Gump. Yeah, I think that Jim Barnett is like the Forrest Gump of the NBA. I mean, he saw more history and played with more great players. He's got more stories to tell too.
So he's in the Oregon Hall of Fame.
Ask him sometime, guys, about the time that Elvin Hayes chased him through an airport, and he goes, and he couldn't catch me. I was too fast.
Yeah, wow.
What was he?
And he goes, Elvin Hayes, he did not like Elvin Hayes, and Elvin Hayes didn't like him. And he goes, and he says, if I saw Elvin Hayes today, I'd go up and I'd give him a big hug and a kiss because he's changed.
Yeah. Wow.
It's amazing how many people change over time.
Oh, yeah.
So, Jim, did he ever win any championships then?
No, never did. Got to play in the playoffs, though. Hey, he played 12 years. He had a great time.
Yeah.
And he got to play with all these great players. He was a good player. Averaged 10 points a game.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, his best shot was 65 his rookie year when the Celtics didn't win.
Can you imagine that? They'd won, it was 8 in a row or something, and they didn't win it that year.
Did they blame him?
I don't know.
They lost in the finals, in the Eastern Finals to Wilt and that great Sixers team. Hal Greer and Luke Jackson and Billy the Kangaroo Kid Cunningham.
Did you say Hal Greer or Rosie Greer?
Hal Greer. Rosie Greer. Jeez. I always remember him from the cooking show, right? Wasn't he a good cook?
He was a piano player.
He was multi-talented guy. What a likable guy. What a likable
guy.
Yeah.
I thought Rosie Greer played for the LA Rams.
He did.
He also played for Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
Did he?
Must have been toward the end.
I don't remember him playing with Kansas City.
I don't remember that. I don't remember.
No, I don't remember that. I don't think he did. I think he started his career with the New York Giants and then went to the Rams.
I'll have to look that up on the internet because I know Buck Buchanan played for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Absolutely.
Love that guy.
Oh, boy.
Along with Willie Lanier.
I think you're right. I was thinking of him instead of.
I don't think Rosie Greer ever played with Kansas.
Sadly, Rosie Greer he was RFK's bodyguard, and he just wasn't around.
He wasn't around.
At the Ambassador Hotel.
Wasn't he there? But he wasn't.
He was there. Yeah, he was there, and just wasn't around. And then Sirhan.
Yeah. Well, there was a big crowd of people, and just out of nowhere.
For years, he played himself.
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
For not being in the way.
How history changed.
Mm-hmm. He just passed on about
a few years ago. Yeah.
Again, off air, we were talking before about teams marketing themselves. Yes. So when we were younger, the Raiders were, Oakland's team. And there was it used to be the big rivalry was the Chiefs and the Raiders.
Right.
Then suddenly Terry Bradshaw comes in, the Frank O'Hara's, immaculate reception. And suddenly now it's 2 rivalries, Pittsburgh and Kansas City. You were at the game this last week, and you said that there were, not half, but
about 40% fans were rooting for Pittsburgh. That was a strange game, too. I mean, it was a boring, dull, listless game, 14-10 with 5 minutes to play. Then it becomes a video game. 3 scores in the left. The Raiders score. That Roethlisberger comes back off of being out for, I guess it was a quarter with a rib injury, drives his team downfield. They score. Then the Raiders come back and score what appears to be the game-winning touchdown. Then a hook and ladder play of 46 yards to Juju Smith-Schuster puts them in a position to tie the game with a field goal, and then the poor kicker slips on the slippery turf, and the ball goes into the line.
It's
and
just,
the game is
was
over.
it muddy from the rains?
It wasn't muddy.
Coliseum's below sea level.
Below sea level.
That's the thing.
It's always
and Al Davis
slip.
used to, he used to have the grounds crew put a little extra water on that side of the field for the opponent. So they would slip. That's a true story.
That is a true story. And Roethlisberger was asked afterwards, "How was the field? How were the conditions?" Because they were terrible. But we knew they were going to be terrible. And they should have prepared. They should have had the higher spikes. I mean, you watch this guy slip, and he looked like an amateur ice skater out there.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were talking before about the fact that the Raiders used to be just strictly Oakland's team,
right?
And then you were mentioning that as soon as they went to LA back in '82, that's when suddenly they get a little bit more of a following.
Well, they had, they were still very good. They won a Super Bowl. They had Marcus Allen. They had some, Howie Long. And they marketed themselves. Al Davis was very skillful with that. And I remember traveling with the Raiders when they moved back to the Bay Area. I traveled with them, did sidelines on the radio broadcast for a couple of years. And we used to go to places like New York and Atlanta and Charlotte, and people would mob the hotels. They would, they were that kind of a team. And Vern, you've covered the Raiders enough. You know what kind of following they have. You traveled all over with those.
Yeah, that was Marcus Allen's team. Yeah. Think about it. Played at USC.
Yeah.
Then he goes greatness of the Raiders. Then that unbelievable touchdown against the Redskins in the Super Bowl. He was bigger than Al Davis.
Oh, yeah.
And Al didn't like that.
No, he did not like that.
You could not be bigger than Al Davis.
But Al Davis, I think Al Davis had a genius or at least he had the right people around him who knew how to market that team. Because I mentioned this to the guys from Las Vegas who were in the press box with me, the TV folks who were covering the team. And I said, the folks around here, most of them are not going to miss the Raiders because most of them will continue following the Raiders. They bring a lot of fans from LA, some of the people in the Bay Area. There's a lot of Raider fans that don't follow any other Bay Area team. Haven't you noticed that?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. And I mean, let's face it. Outside of the Bay Area, a lot of people are going to be excited about boarding a plane to fly to Vegas.
Oh, sure.
Than to fly to Oakland.
Especially if you're in LA. If you're an LA Raider fan and still following it,
you could drive. Heck yeah, you could. Yeah, you could drive if you wanted.
Much shorter distance. So it's probably a good move for the Raiders from the marketing standpoint. Yeah.
Because then we were talking also about how the Warriors, they were lousy, and then as soon as they got good, but it wasn't just the fact that they were good, that they were getting fans.
It's the kind of players they have,
and
the way they play. But I think a lot of it, don't you think, Vernon? Not only the style of play, but just the personalities. Steph Curry, for instance, is such a welcoming, thoughtful, cerebral kind of a guy that he appeals to a lot of people. And he's not a big guy.
He does, but at the same time, if you can remember, he changed the way kids play the game.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you got CYO games, and kids are like launching shots from like 25 feet away because they want to be like Steph Curry instead of just the old, pass it 5 times and then, aim for the square and it'll go in. And so that was it was unpopular for youth coaches because all the kids just want to run out and start jacking shots all the time. But what hurts the Warriors the most is it's a West Coast team, and let's face it, these games 7 o'clock, 7:30 West Coast time, 10:30 on the East. So I mean, if you're on the East, you don't get to see those games.
No, you don't.
Unless they're in prime time.
I lived in New York for a year, and it's amazing when you work in New York and you lived in Baltimore, worked in Baltimore. You don't pay attention to what's going on in the West. There's so much happening back east to begin with that you just don't
East Coast mentality, boy. I mean, unless you're USC or one of those LA teams,
no, you're not watching.
Also, guys like Steph and Clay, and Clay's a little bit, less of a quote personality, but you don't hear much bad stuff. I don't think you hear anything.
Well, they're likable people.
Well, they're all for the most part. I mean, they're all character guys.
That's high character.
You don't read about them in TMZ.
No, and even
Draymond, who's a little bit out there, but Draymond,
you still don't read anything bad about him.
No, Draymond is so popular with the media because he shoots from the hip. People love his honesty.
Like Trump.
Yeah, well, different story. This guy's an entertainer. Trump's the president, so let's differentiate here.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Trump was on TV. He had his own TV show.
Yeah, he was an entertainer.
Yeah,
of sorts.
Draymond grabs people by the hand and grabs basketballs.
Yeah.
Trump likes to grab wherever he wants.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sorry, I had to bring that up.
You had to bring that up,
mentioned
didn't you?
Yeah, of
Had
course.
to squeeze in. It's like he has to get into every conversation. We can't ignore the, he loves it. He loves it.
Listen, it'll just be another 5 years and then it'll be done, right?
Yeah.
For the listening audience out there, because we just watched it last night, my son and I, because he had to do it for a project, we watched Citizen Kane.
Oh,
did you watch Citizen Kane?
Terrific movie.
Red Rum?
Classic.
Right? Isn't that what?
No, that's The Shining.
Red Rum.
Citizen
No,
Kane.
no.
Orson Welles, I do know that.
Orson Welles.
Yeah.
What was the name of the little?
Arguably one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah.
I mean, in all seriousness.
I'll have to watch it
Right
again, 'cause I
behind
got
the Wizard
really
of
bored
Oz.
the first time.
What was the name of that little sleigh at the Rosebud?
Rosebud. See, not Red Rum. Rosebud. That's what I was thinking.
Remember, those were his last words. Everybody's trying to figure out what does it mean, Rosebud.
Yeah.
Nobody could figure it out
Until the very end. Well, the audience is let in,
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah.
But
Go ahead, tell them.
but rewatch that movie
Oh yeah.
and then look at this current administration,
Oh,
how it was built and all the rising to power and all that kind of stuff.
Huh.
And just see the glaring parallels
Yeah.
between that movie and what's happening today.
Well, I guess-
It is so scary.
Wasn't
Really? Okay.
Orson Welles' characters supposedly based upon
Loosely based on
William
William Randolph Hearst
William Randolph Hearst,
and
yeah.
Joseph Pulitzer.
Yeah.
yeah, because I remember it's a news story. I mean, it's a news. It's all built around the news, isn't it?
Yeah. And of course,
Well,
for those-
he
yeah.
as a
News
child,
empire.
he had inherited this money and had bought a New York Inquirer
Okay.
newspaper,
Right.
and had boosted the circulation. All of a sudden, he owns all these newspapers all over the world, and he's the richest man in the world,
Yeah.
and has everything. He built all these mansions and palaces and what. I mean, he just builds this empire.
But he
give
becomes
us
such a
give us a spoiler alert. What's the Rosebud?
Rosebud is this little sleigh that he loved. It was given to him.
It's the only thing he ever loved.
It's his
Besides
little,
himself, it's the only thing he ever loved.
Okay.
This
Little-
snow sled
sled.
that he had as a little boy, and he always kept it.
And he kept it.
And
And
the
at the
name of that
very end of the
sled
movie, remember
Was
the
Rosebud.
at the very end of the movie, after he says Rosebud, you see a big pile of things that are burning, and Rosebud's right above.
Yeah,
it.
at the very end of they leave. He's passed on, so he's got all these artifacts in his mansion called Xanadu.
Yeah, dude.
And so they're getting rid of all of the stuff, incinerating it.
Yeah.
They're just throwing it. And
Didn't have Craigslist back then.
and this guy picks up the sled and throws it in the incinerator.
And it says
And then
Rosebud,
there's a tight shot on the sled.
Rosebud.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only time I think about Rosebud is you ever see the Dick Van Dyke show? And
Sure.
in the
Barry
middle
Tyler
name-
Moore.
Yeah, the
With
middle name of the
Rosemary.
kid
Rosemary, that's
was-
right.
his
Maury
name was
Amsterdam.
Rosebud. And they goes, why is my name Rosebud? Robert, Oscar, Sam, Edward, Benjamin, Ulysses, David. I said, I still remember
Very
that.
good. You're not having a senior moment
Some
yet.
some
yeah.
things stick with you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, here we go. Third trivia question. Still talking basketball.
Just the final one?
This is the final question.
Oh,
yes. I know.
geez,
Go-
I'm having
go
such a
too
good
fast.
time with you guys today.
What player was known as the Clown Prince of the Harlem Globetrotters?
Oh, that's an easy
That's
one.
an easy one,
Yeah.
right? I told you there were going to be two
Yeah.
ones that were kind of hard, and then this one was going to be the easy one.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't you email Edward at sportsecon101.com the answer to that question? See how many people know this. Of course, you'd have to be a Harlem Globetrotters fan. What player was known as the Clown Prince of the Harlem Globetrotters? I got a little. After we give you the answer when we come back, I have a little statement about it. It's kind of cute. All right.
I have an actual Harlem Globetrotters uniform.
Really? All
Yeah,
right. Well, stay
I
with us.
played with them.
I
Really?
remember seeing that picture. Okay, hold on.
Mr.
We'll be right
Involvement.
back.
Yeah.
That's right. You get the. Well, that wasn't. How long ago?
It was about a year or so ago when I came through.
That's right. For some reason, it's not the same as it was when I was a kid.
No, well, I mean, yeah, but they've had to change rosters, change generation, different audience, got to appeal to them.
Yeah.
They draw a crowd though. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. I remember seeing the Harlem Globetrotters at the first basketball game I ever went to see. That was, I had to pay for tickets. 1962, 61.
I saw them in 72.
Yeah.
They made a guest appearance on Scooby-Doo in cartoon form.
No, Marcus
Oh, that's
Haynes
what
was
they
the
did,
first
yeah.
big star, and then Meadowlark Lemon kind of supplanted him, didn't he?
Mhm.
Yeah. Marcus Haynes was well known for dribbling.
Yeah, he had those handles.
He had the amazing ball handling ability, and then Meadowlark was just a character.
Yeah, he would just set up the bits.
Yeah.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today.
Not forever. That always scares me when I get that last time.
Yeah, but every time I say that, you still come back.
I know. I always like to
Edward Brown here along with
I
Brian.
like to give you a hard time about something. You're too nice a guy, isn't it?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I just realized we have at least two nice guys here. You and Vernon. Two of the nicer people I've
Well,
had.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's why we're all here.
I try to be nice.
All right.
My wife says I'm nice.
You are nice. Yeah.
My wife says I'm not nice. See, there you go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there you go.
Get out of here. Well, I'll have a talk with her. Okay, what player was known as the Clown Prince of the Harlem Globetrotters?
Well, that's an easy one. Vernon's going to
Go ahead,
answer that.
Vernon.
Meadowlark Lemon, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
In fact, who, by the way, Wilt Chamberlain said was the best player of all time.
He probably would have been a great NBA
That's
player.
right, because Will Chamberlain was a Harlem
That's right,
Globetrotter
yeah.
for a while.
So
You think about how much better the NBA would have been if some of those guys had been allowed to play.
Here's the story, because they play against the
Generals.
the generals.
Washington with red clots.
Right. So here's the deal. They do the bits,
Right.
and then but there's 5 minutes of the first half, and then 5 minutes of the second half where they're really playing.
That's great. I like that.
You know what's interesting too was that Red Clots once was asked, "Were you guys just out there to be a fool?" He goes, "Yeah, to a certain degree. We wanted to win, and he says when we did win, it was really fun. We won about 15 games."
Exactly. Okay, thoughts for the day. When quote I is replaced with quote we, even illness becomes wellness.
Nice.
Is that nice?
Yeah.
And a mirror reflects a man's face, but what he is really like is shown by the kind of friends he chooses. That's why I choose you guys. Again, I'm not sure why you hang out with me, but
You're too nice a guy.
that's.
I was going to say, when I look in the mirror, I go, "Who is that old guy?" Oh, jeez. Man,
That's not good.
dissipated, drawn, bloodshot eyes.
Oh, you don't look a day over 50. Come on.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds nice,
There you
actually, given that I'm 66 years old. Yeah.
So you're how old now? 55.
I'm 56.
Holy!
Soon to be 57.
I'll be 59.
Hey, if there's anybody out there listening who's under 40, they're probably like, "Why am I listening to a show with a bunch of old guys?"
That's right.
Come on.
All right, well, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective. We'll be asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
Remember, I kept that going while Vernon wasn't here.
I know. I kept going.
So when it's let's talk about next week, because
Yeah.
I'll be flying back from Cincinnati.
Hey, any day is
On
fine with
Monday.
me. I'm much more flexible.
Right.
So
Let's,
you want to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, any day is fine.
Okay, so let's
I'm
look
easy.
at this.
I'm easy.
Okay, so next week.
There's a nice sunset on the way home.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, that's on the way home from the Raiders game.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Let me just save this file real quickly. Yeah.
And please save the file.
I'm trying to record the winning play. Now watch what happens. The damn thing.
Oh, jeez.
That's the winning play.
Let's see.
Oh, I'll show you. Hang on a second. I was just in the press box recording this thing, and you can see. I mean, you can't really tell what's going on. I'm
Must have been loud as hell when they
Oh,
started.
God
Exactly.
Almighty! And then what was really cool was the Raiders. I have to give the Raiders were playing like a bunch of college kids. They'd make a big play, they'd be jumping up and down.
Good.
It was nice. I mean, I was really hoping they'd win that game.
It was like watching Miami after all just get
I felt bad for John Gruden. I really did. I don't think he's a bad guy. This whole thing with Reggie
Did you
McKenzie.
see the Miami Miracle? What a
Yes.
play.
Yeah, we were watching that in the press box. Everybody just went
Crazy.
nuts. Did you have it on the TV up there too? Yeah, that was crazy. We should have brought this up.
I know.
Why in the world was Rob Gronkowski out on the field? That they knew that wasn't going to be a Hail Mary play. I mean, he was the last line of defense.